Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this episode of the Pave It Forward podcast. My name is Phil Metzger, and with me is Kevin Gray, and we are here to help leaders in the paving industry who are looking to run more efficiently, meet their ideal customer, and improve the lives of those around them through meaningful work. Kevin, how are you today, my man?
Doing good, man. Doing good. How are you?
Doing great. I'm pretty excited about this podcast topic because it's something I really enjoy staying on top of. Not only for marketing, but as a business owner, I think the advancement of technology, well, it's just clear that the advancement of technology is something that's moving at a crazy rapid pace. It's something that can be very intimidating. But I thought we would dive into a bit about how AI and automation is helping asphalt paving business owners and in general the asphalt paving industry. Because I remember, when we started in 2017, some of these technologies were starting to be introduced or were introduced, but maybe trickling their way down from the major players who could buy the newest technology right up front for road projects and things like that. But I remember as some of the guys were talking about the leveling and some of the ways that the paver can manage some of the asphalt output and stuff like that was really interesting. I thought, I just thought it was simply flattening a mat. So
Sure.
what are some of your initial thoughts when you think about AI and the advancement of technology within the paving industry?
Well, I'll put it like this, and it's been this way for a long time in business in general, and it's really cool to start. It's been coming and it's been around the field side of it, the field aspect, the production aspect of the construction industry for a few years now, and it's cool. It is ramping up and it gets better and better and better, a lot quicker now than it used to. And I'll tell you, this is just my general philosophy. He he who has the most technology wins. And it's just the way of the world now, man. Faster, smarter, better, more efficient, more productive, more precise, more quality control. I mean, whatever ways you can leverage technology in your construction business is just going to put you up at, the top. It's gonna put you ahead of the competition, and it's gonna make you more valuable at the end of the day to your consumer. So
Yeah.
he that wins the technology race is going to be ahead of the game. I don't care if you're in construction or if you're building self-driving cars, whatever's going on out there in the world of automation and AI these days. It's pretty incredible, and it's not slowing down. So it's either, kind of get on the train or get left in the dust.
Absolutely. And throughout every piece of research I do on the asphalt paving industry and contractors in general, it tends to be one of the industries that are later in adopting some of these technologies. So through the research through this podcast, I also realized that there is an opportunity here for a lot of paving business owners specifically to maybe even gain an edge. Now, a lot of this is on the customer service side, the computer-based side that I was kind of referencing. But when you talk about some of the beneficial kind of features out there in the field that already do exist, some of these things might be um, well affordable now, just kind of based on an estimate of how much time and productivity it will save you. And some of these may be in the future for some of our listeners, but I thought it was valuable nonetheless just to know what's out there.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's pretty cool. We're diving into this and um, doing some research and looking at all the options in there that are available, the things that are coming down the pipe, and yeah, and like you said, there are certain levels to this. I mean, there are entry level things you can, strap or bolt on to your equipment now or into your businesses, whether it be on your CR, even on your CRM side, internally in the office with your sales staff, to multi-million dollar, grading and slope applications that you can add to pavers, dozers, you name it, so.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely get into some of those on the list for today, especially on the equipment side. We're going to have to expand this to another episode. I feel like a lot of these headings could have their own episode. But the first thing I wanted to start with was based off something you said in the last episode that Kentucky is allowed to use petroleum, or is it coal? Coal-based
Coal tar
coal tar.
and
And
coal
so
tar. Yep.
yeah, yeah. And so that got me going, what are the regulations? What do different people use? And it really is crazy how much sustainability is creeping into things. And the first thing that popped up was the actual asphalt pavement and what it's made out of. So, first question, can you kind of dive into what you know about the coal tar version versus what other states have to use and what they're using?
Well, it's the coal tar emulsion sealer is essentially a byproduct from the coal refinery process, and then
Mm,
it's manufactured by these seal coat manufactured by the manufacturers,
mm,
um, and chemists that they have on their staff that create these formulas that make the sealer that we use here in Kentucky. Now, in the
gotcha.
last uh, PMM is another seal coat material
Mm,
that's used across the country. I think it's been around for quite some time now, but there are a lot of states that are only allowing that kind of material to be used, which is a non-coal tar uh, based formula. I'm not. I mean, to be quite honest with you, I haven't done a ton of research on that product because we've used it a few times and didn't get the results we were after, so we
mm,
quickly switched back to the coal tar. But it's uh, and look, we've got an election year going on here too. So I mean, it seems that every 4, 6, 8, 10 years, when you reflect back on the
mm.
decade prior, that there are a lot of changes that happened on the eco-friendly side of business, and construction's been one of those things that uh, we don't feel the effects right away, but eventually it is coming down the line. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next decade with all of the products we use, whether it be on the maintenance side with the seal coating products, whether it be on the pavement side. It's uh, basically rock, tar, and sand, but it's getting into how much of that material are they going to require to be recycled? Are there any other kind of bio-based binders or recycled plastics or any industrial byproducts that we can be adding that aren't using virgin natural materials as much.
Absolutely. Yeah, when the reason I researched this and I just completely came on my radar out of nowhere, but a random article popped up that they were using old wind turbines as a potential ingredient to recycle in there. And, we haven't dove too far into the recycled aspect of things and the sustainability aspect, as you said, because it's simply not required for, I'm sure, good reasons. Requirements take a long time to pass in the industry. But it is a point that we can recycle the asphalt, and I do think it's interesting for any of your asphalt nerds out there, the different types of materials they're trying to use just to see if they can get a better product. Some things mentioned here were the wind turbine blades, asphalt shingles, and discarded shoe polish. Don't know how far we're gonna get with discarded shoe polish, but it's interesting nonetheless. And perhaps probably more interesting is talking about some of the construction systems that are currently on the equipment and things like that. It says, and this is what the article that I read was. I've been talking about it, been around for 10 years, but some of those GPS graders and pavers, the things that don't even require an operator anymore necessarily in some situations. Kevin, when when do you foresee maybe some of this technology making sense for a business owner? There's only one Gary out there. I don't know if
Right.
we necessarily need a GPS roller, but in when do you think that thought might start to cross your mind?
Man, I don't know. I guarantee you we have a lot more fun if Gary were the one out there, you know, joining
That's
us for
true,
the
man.
day, and instead of just a roller sitting there operating itself. But That's God, you can let your imagination go wild. To me, a roller, is something that you could actually set out there on a job site if you had, either drone programmed coordinates or somehow AutoCAD got into that. And I'm sure that's a big piece of the technology there. Um, reading the ground, reading, all of the variables around it. And that's something that, you could not train, but you could, program in, the rolling patterns, the exact way you want that piece of machinery to operate. Um, I would imagine all day long, and it could follow right behind. I think that would be one that would be pretty easily replaced without much human interaction at all. There's things already on these pavers. We've talked about it in prior episodes. Most large paving machines are a three-man setup. You've got a guy up driving the tractor, and you got two screed operators down there running the screed. But even at that, even with the Trimble systems and grade and slope TopCon system, there's a bunch of them out there that we've tried out and have upfitted on our pavers. You can almost get that dialed in to where you're almost just need the guy on the tractor driving the thing straight and letting the robotics down on the bottom side of that thing, and the automation and the computers doing the rest of the work. So I I don't know how far off it is. I call me old school or whatever, but I'm a proponent of keeping the human element out there. I mean, I'm not saying we can just sit back and push the play button and these machines go pave a huge parking lot for us. I don't think that's uh, at least in the near reality. Who knows what the future may hold, man? I mean, cars are basically essentially driving themselves coast to coast at this point, or at least have the capability to. So I'll never say it can't be done or we'll never see it in our lifetime, or that science fiction. Like what we believed to be science fiction when we were younger, children, Back to the Future, all these space odyssey, what all these futuristic movies, Terminator 2. I mean, we're starting to live in some of that stuff more and more so every day. So
Yeah,
I think the sky's the limit. I have a hard time not seeing the human element, especially in the construction industry, but
sure.
time will tell.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
and,
it's true.
and in the same breath, I'm highly motivated by precision, accuracy, eliminating human error, production, efficiency. So that's tough. It would
Yeah,
be hard to have a culture around your business if it's just you and a bunch of equipment. You know,
absolutely,
take the
absolutely.
team out of it. So
I feel like there's going to need to be problem solvers at most key locations, even with this technology. Um, but with you saying you've integrated a lot of this technology in the past, can you kind of walk me through what your steps are as far as figuring out what technologies are available and how you go about deciding which ones to use on your machinery?
a lot of research. I mean, and a lot of the times, I mentioned there are some entry level things you can start easing into, but a lot of you talk about technology, there's just a cost and there's an expense that comes with that.
Hmm.
Ultimately, it should be an ROI because ultimately you should be investing in the technology because you've done enough homework and enough research and gathered enough data and talked to enough of your peers or mentors within the industry to realize and understand what the return on that investment is actually going to gain you, not just monetarily, but again, customer satisfaction and value to your consumer. I mean, culture, happier employees because the work has become easier and on down the list. Like there should be a considerable ROI when you're talking about making these kind of investments into your business. But that's how I've always done. Some of it's been trial and error. Like, we've run, GPS tracking on our fleet. We've run automation and grade and slope control on our pavers. our CRMs that we've upgraded, that do a lot of automation now with our customer interaction and feedback and engagement. It's all been more of the things inside of the company, on the internal side, on the office side, have been a little more trial and error because those maybe aren't as large a ticket items, and also there's just more of it to choose from. There's 4 or 5 decent systems, and we've tried a bunch of them out until we found one that worked exactly right for our business. So there's a little trial and error involved, and on the big stuff for me, it's been relying on others in the industry who may have done it before me, or a relationship that I've got with a dealer and their representatives and partners of theirs that can come in and show us the technology, really give us a good demonstration of it, help us to understand it, so we can wrap our arms around what it's going to look like, how user friendly it is, or may not be, and then just make a decision based on that. But typically, especially if you're plugged in the industry, and if you're not, there's plenty of ways to do that in the world we live in today. Just get with the folks who are doing it and doing it well and seem to be having success with it, and just start asking some questions. Get on some message boards or get in some people's DMs and just ask, say, hey, I see you're using the Trimble system on your Weiler 385 paver. What can you tell me about it? And
Yeah.
just see where the conversation goes.
Chances are you'll at least get a response because when industry professionals get actually asked about what they're doing,
Yeah,
by someone that's also in their shoes, they tend to get a little bit more excited, which is also a good thing as well.
absolutely. Yeah.
Now, as far as you mentioned the GPS trucking, can you just give us some benefits to that, and maybe some of the cost analysis, whether if someone's maybe looking to start tracking their trucks, what can they maybe expect when they look for some GPS tracking on that?
Well, there nowadays, back when we started doing that, gosh, 7, 8 years ago, probably, uh, there weren't very many options. There are a lot of
Mm.
options out there for that now. Um, but it's just a way, because back in the day, it used to be, you'd be out on a job site, you'd send a truck away, and unless they hollered at you on their CB or on their, on the cell phone, like, you basically had no idea what was going on. Now we have live traffic we can watch too, and routes we can avoid, or change the route if something's looking better. So it's a level of accountability, because back in the day, that truck driver would leave the job, they would go to the plant or wherever they were going, and then they would return to the job site, either with material or empty, to collect spoils, whatever they may be doing. Well, it you know th- obviously there should be some trust involved within your organization, but there's quite a bit of liberty there for them to say, oh, I hit traffic, or there was a holdup at the plant, or when in all reality he's parked out behind the McDonald's taking a 25-minute nap while he's eating a double cheeseburger and a large fry, and you don't know it. The foreman out there, like, where the hell is my truck? Like, we got the you don't know any difference. So
Sure.
it adds a level of accountability to the driver. It adds a level, probably most importantly, it adds a level of safety. We can watch for things like speeding. We can watch for harsh braking. We can watch RPMs. Like, we can watch the functionality of that truck and how it's being driven, and if we're running red lights. I mean, things like that. So it's kind of a check and balance for, where's my, and it all comes down to logistics. And again, it comes down to efficiency and production. So it gives the supervision a way to monitor and track how his trucking is flowing throughout the day. Do I need to add trucks? Do I need to take away some truck? Do we have too many trucks? And it just gives you a real time view, uh, because when you're laying a big job, you've got a certain amount of trucks that you have programmed for that job in a certain amount of time to get a certain amount of material to that site for the day. And you can really get a pulse on that, starting right out of the gate early on, to see, are we over trucked? Are we under trucked? Is there an accident somewhere? Are there holdups at the plant? And you can make adjustments on the fly without having to call 10 truck drivers and figure out what's going on. You can almost, after you've done it long enough, you can kind of paint the picture on the app there that's telling you how your trucks are moving throughout the town.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, literally you see that kind
Pretty
of
cool.
wheel in motion between the site, the plant, and just all your trucks and where they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Something else kind of related to the trucking aspect of things, that was mentioned in some of the research was an e-ticketing system by Asphalt
Yes.
Plants. Are you familiar with this? Do they have those in the Louisville,
They
Kentucky
do.
market?
And it I would say the capability's been there for a while, but it really came into play during COVID,
Mm.
because they didn't even want the truck drivers, because typically you go through the plant, they weigh your truck, you put a load on it, they weigh it again, and then they'll give you a ticket telling you how much material you've just hauled out of their plant. And so uh, back in the day, you would get out of your truck and you would go up, up the stairs, maybe across the catwalk and over to the plant operator's little shack and get the ticket from him. That turned into where they would shoot a tube with the ticket down, and the guy would grab it out just like they were going through the bank or something. When you send your deposit up the tube and get your receipt back. But during COVID, they didn't even want you really touching the tube or grabbing the ticket.
Mm.
So it all started coming by email, and that's another way that it's helped the people on site understand in real time exactly how much material I've got loaded out, when's it loaded, when can I expect it back here, and then you start correlating that with your trucking you've got going on, and it gets pretty awesome, and it takes a lot of paper off of the office too. You got
And the truck driver.
e-receipts. It's
Yeah.
just really cutting down on the paperwork and how many hands have to touch all of this information to get it from the field all the way to the time it gets an invoice or it gets on your accounts payable report. You're starting to get this stuff digitally, electronically, uh, and it's all about speed, man. Speed and technology. uh, because we can, like I said, we've talked about this before. There's a lot of folks out there that can do this, can do a really good job, and are really professional or skilled tradesmen in our industry. But you start adding these other little intangibles in, like you can really start ramping up um, your efficiencies.
Yeah, something that I plan on touching or getting to in the next episode or a near future episode, is that kind of response between you and especially I'm thinking of the residential customer. I found it rather surprising, especially from Kentucky, especially outside of the Louisville area where people like to talk. It's a neighborly type atmosphere. I know a lot of customers in marketing, we try to make the customer evoke an emotion, with the marketing to where they feel like they have a connection to you specifically and your company as a result. But you were talking about how people really appreciate getting these bids quickly and how some of the technology in your estimating
Yeah.
program can help it zip along quickly. Um, can you speak a little bit to about that kind of relationship of someone wanting that personal touch with a proposal versus just getting that in their hands as quickly as possible?
It's interesting, and especially starting a business over again, essentially from scratch. Um, I I am the salesperson on 95% of the work that we're selling and performing,
Hmm.
maybe 98% of it. So I'm getting, I don't know, I think we've done somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple hundred proposals, maybe a few more. By this it's July 1, whatever. So I've got a pretty good sample size to choose from there, and uh, it still does seem like people like to meet on site and go over the project and just kind of do a walkthrough. That seems to be very prevalent still. But what I will say, is even on the initial phone call and initial communication, we're seeing much more come in through a Google form, and people would almost rather email or text message about setting up the appointment rather than talking on the phone about it, have the in-person conversation while we're on site. And then almost everything after that, even to where I'm scheduling the work, is done via it, almost a lot. I mean, so much of it's done by text message. It's crazy.
Mhm.
And people may say, well, that takes the personal side out of it. Well, we've met with them on site. They have my phone number. I have their phone number. They know how to reach me. There are some people that want to have those phone conversations, but people have been programmed, especially since COVID, man. Like uh, the way you buy, the way you shop, the way you get your groceries, the way you can get dinner delivered to you. I mean, on and on and on down the list. Your prescriptions, uh, your dog food. I mean,
Your asphalt.
your asphalt. I
Yeah.
mean, consumerism has gone electronic. It just has. So
It's
where I
really
used to think it was crazy 5 or 8 years ago to try and close a deal over even an email at that point. I was like, you got to have that meeting, and you got. And look, there's nothing better than face to face human interaction, shaking hands, feeling warm and fuzzy about each other, doing business. Like, don't get me wrong, like that's still top dog, in
yeah.
my opinion. But so much commerce is just done. I've sold a couple jobs today that I had a 5 minute site visit with them, and maybe another 5 minutes in total of taking pictures, grabbing a quick measurement off of software, by the way, all off of software, CRM and measuring tools, put a proposal together, emailed it to them, and we've texted a few, maybe 12 minutes of total interaction with this consumer, and we're signing contracts.
Incredible.
Um, yeah, and it thank God, because if things were the way they used to be 15, 18 years ago when I started this, and everything was on a triplicate white, yellow, and pink copy written estimate and hand drawings that I would have to literally either mail or hand deliver to these customers, I'd we'd be we'd be dead in the water. I
Yep.
couldn't ever get the estimates out in time
Yeah,
to
you'd
keep
have
up.
to seek put more into your company. You'd had just to hire people
Absolutely.
just to be able to get the things started. Functionality wise, that's
Yeah, and
yeah,
there's so much technology that's available, especially when you maybe just starting out, that wasn't available 20 years ago, where you don't have to have a staff and a sale. And I'm not saying that the owner should wear all the hats. Like, I'm not, you're just an employee with a tax ID number at that point. I mean, I'm not recommending that be the long-term solution, but there are. I could see being able to operate this for a couple years as this thing gets going, until we do need admin and office personnel and sales personnel and leadership out in the field. Like, it's made things much more manageable for these smaller shops if you're willing to invest in it. I know the value of my time that I have on any given day. I know I can't be running around giving triplicate handwritten estimates all day. I'll never get anything else done. We'll never get ahead. We'll never make it. The ship will sink and start taking on water before we even get 100 feet off the shore.
sure. Yeah.
So um, that's luckily I have enough experience and hard lessons learned that I can understand where to put some of those dollars that help streamline some of the things, get some of the things off of my personal plate that help me run a better, more efficient business.
Absolutely. Well, if any of the listeners or watchers out there, viewers, want to have a question for specific question about Kevin and how he kind of approaches some of those decisions, please reach out to us. If we aren't able to if we aren't able to give a direct answer, then we'll kind of look at it for the podcast sake and see what we can come up with to get you one. Kevin, I definitely appreciate this time, and we're going to get into a lot more of related material in the next episode and future episodes, including chatbots for inquiries, AI assisted quote generation, which we got a bit into today, predictive maintenance notifications, AI powered knowledge base, and for customers and training, which especially that AI for training and for your customer base, I think is one of those steps, especially with what you're saying. People want to know that there is someone there that they can trust, who they can have a relationship with and validate that they're spending money in a place that is very possibly worth it. But the rest of it can be streamlined if it is efficient and can actually help the customer. So I'm pretty excited to get into that next episode. If
Yeah,
any, yeah, please.
there's so much more. You just mentioned a few of them like this. Uh, it is amazing, even for a small business like mine. Um, the amount of technology that can be implemented top to bottom. The way you made me think about when you brought up AI, preventative and predictive maintenance.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, it's just the sky's the limit for what this stuff can do in your business, what it can watch, what it can track, what it can assist with, what it can predict. I think that the one of the biggest points, and maybe we can talk about this more on the next one, is the predictability factor, which becomes super powerful.
Sure. The things in your day that can really ruin a day, week, month, if
Yeah.
equipment's down or if something that is a major part of your production is
Yeah.
down, if you can get those just an email or a text that it's coming up, I mean, what a benefit for budgeting, for production, for many parts of the business.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, this party is concluding right now, but if you want to keep the party going, visit us on our socials at Pave It Forward and Pave It Forward LLC. We also have a new home on the internet. We put our podcast on the website. We're going to be utilizing that as our home base for the podcast now. So as it grows, we're going to continue to give you all resources. You can find some there now. You'll see all future episodes there, and we'll continue to backlog some of the older episodes. So yeah, visit us there. We'll be having more resources and questionnaires, etc., coming out. So stay tuned to the podcast. But for now, Kevin, any last thoughts for the people?
No, man, I tell you, it's just exciting to hear you saying all those things because it's pretty cool to watch all this come together again.
Yep.
Like it's the first time, but it's not the first time.
Yeah, as you said,
It's exciting, dude. This
yeah.
is I'm proud of the work you're doing, man.
Oh,
It's cool.
yeah, thank you very much. It's
Yeah.
it's truly a passion of mine. Like when we talk about these individual topics, I am truly excited to research them, present them to you, get your opinion on them, and then we can begin communicating with our audience about it, see what works, what doesn't work, and really create a feedback loop of successful asphalt paving business owners and people that love what they do and want to supply, as we say, a meaningful life for those around them. So thanks to you, Kev. I appreciate it. And thanks to everyone listening. We'll see you on the next podcast.